Hello everyone, Don here with the next update on the W.A.R Corsair project. As you can see, I've been still busy at the control surfaces. I've got almost finished with them this weekend. The only problem was I just finished what I could do because I ran out of thinner. There's the last can. So what I ended up doing is I got the, you seen last week, I did the elevator. You can see that's sanded out now. And the bottom side is coated now as well, so it needs sanded, but it's pretty much ready to go. So I just got to sand that out. The aileron, everything you can see with the white on the top, those are finished, top and bottom. These are the latest ones I've done. They're still setting up. This one should be pretty set. This one's set. The rudder is set, but it's a little tacky, and this one still needs finished on the underside. So that side's done. If I flip it over, it'll end up sticking to the table. And then all I got left to do is this flap, this flap, this flap, 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 and that aileron. And that aileron is the one that had the pucker in it. I was able to cut it, heat it up, push it down, and squirted some epoxy in there. The epoxy must have got hot because it kind of made a depression, which is good because it'll fill over good with this slurry mix. So I've got 5 pieces left. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the bottom of the other side of the rudder 5. And I'm getting low on epoxy, but I think I have enough because it only uses 4 ounces will do 2 pieces. So one mix for 2, another mix for 2, and then that one in the rudder. I can probably get, like those 2, these 2, and then this and the rudder. But I can generally stretch it out because most of this stuff is pretty straight. There's really no heavy low spots, so I don't have to put it on as thick. So that's what I've been doing, but I think I have enough epoxy to finish that. And my micro balloons, it's going to be really close, but I think I can get at least 3 more batches out of that. I mean, that was, I've went through probably 15 gallons of that stuff because everything gets it. And then once this is all sanded down, then hopefully I'll have enough epoxy left. If not, I'll probably buy maybe a quart. That should do it. But the epoxy wipe uses very little. Basically all you're doing is, after this thing's sanded out, you can see these little pinholes, these little bumps, imperfections, and the sandpaper leaves scratches. When you put the epoxy on, you spread it on real good, and then you take a squeegee and you rub it off, and then you rub it back into the cup, and you use it on the next one and the next one. So I'll get all these sanded out and do them all at the same time. I can only do one side at a time, of course. But the idea is you put a coat on, squeegee it off, and the epoxy will settle into the low spots. Give it 30 minutes, come back, hit it with a second coat, squeegee it off, and do as many times as you need to fill all this stuff in. And when you're done, light sanding with some 320, and it's ready for primer. And then the primer I use is epoxy, and it's kind of a sandable primer, so you can even touch up a little more with that. So during the week, I decided to drag out my radio for the airplane. I bought this radio quite a while ago just for this airplane build. It's a Vertex standard, got it from Aircraft Spruce and Specialty. The name of the company has changed now. It's got I think it's a Japanese company, but they still sell it. What I got here is I've got the adapter harness coming off of here. What's neat about this little harness is it plugs in, but it also screws in after it plugs in, so it won't pull out. And then the antenna unscrews, but what that does is allow you to plug in a headset. But for the microphone, I can't just plug it straight in. I had to plug in a push to talk button. Well, I cut the push to talk button off, put this plug on it, because it's going to go into the airplane, it's going to go off of the button on the control stick. So I'll put one of these on the other. I have to run one wire. There's only one wire coming out for push to talk. The other one goes to ground. And that's all this does, is it sends a signal to ground, triggers it. But I don't want the ground on the airplane to be the ground for the radio. So I'll run a second wire, snip the ground wire, and then put the other end on that. And I can plug this in so the whole thing can come out. And then as for the antenna, I bought a BNC connector, a crimp-on BNC connector for my RG58 cable, antenna cable here. It's a skinny one. So this crimp-on connector goes on there, but you need a special pair of pliers to crimp this little guy, this little outer shell. So I found some die sets that'll fit the set of pliers I have. Okay, then I got this other little piece right here. It's an adapter that screws in where the antenna screws in, and it gives me the BNC connector, as you can see there, for this connector to plug into. So that takes care of the radio. And I pre-tested it all, and it all works fine. And then I also bought my seat belt and shoulder harness. Yeah, this is a physical belt. I just went with blue. Didn't want everything plain as black, so these are actually FAA PMA certified belts from Aircraft Spruce. And then the shoulder harness. Get out. The only thing with this shoulder harness is the Y harness. We have this single strap here that gets attached in the back. Should have these kind of laid out on the plane so you can see them a little better. The plane's all dusty now. But the problem I have is these two holes are where the seatbelt's supposed to come through. That would be these guys. The only problem is those aren't going to make it through that hole. So, because I have this should be behind that bulkhead from here back. And then this will hook to a cable that goes into the attach points in the back. So what I'll probably do is, where those grooves are, I'll probably cut that all the way across. And then this whole belt can slip in and out and be fed in from this end. So that's kind of what I've done during the week. It was another hot, hazy week, hot and humid week. Working into stuff all day. I really didn't have the energy to come out and mess around with this thing. But I did do that and get this stuff ordered. I also got got the screws I needed, these Philister head screws, so I can put them in the fuel pump in the bottom and sending unit. They got a drilled head on them so you can safety wire them. And then I bought some more basically sheet metal screws for screwing on the tail cone and such. And then I got a couple of clevis pins that work with the shackles that I need for the seat belts, which are these little guys. So these pins go in there, and this is what I got to get into the back of the airplane. It's clear back in here, so I got to reach in all the way through from here. We're talking it's almost 3 feet back, and I got to get those in there, and then a cable will loop through those two shackles and come to an end that I can hook up the belt to. So that's pretty much where I'm at now. Since I ran out of thinner, I was going to get some this morning, just forgot about it, trying to figure out everything else I needed. But I'm probably going to run up tonight and get another gallon, so I'll have it ready. Try and get these things finished up. And then next weekend I'll just be sanding and get them all ready and prepped, and then get some epoxy wipe going. And hopefully I can get some paint on those. And some of them I intend to try and balance. The rudder I can balance. I can drill a hole in here, put a thing up in there with some lead weight, try to balance that. Same way with the elevator. Use these for balancing because I want them in a neutral balance or slight nose down. And the ailerons too. The ailerons are more critical than anything to balance. So I've got the pivot point for the hinge is right about here, so I have to put the weight basically up here in this front edge to try and balance these. We'll see how much weight it's going to physically take, because these they're not heavy, but they're balancing clear up here, and all this weight is after your balance point, so it may take more weight than I'm comfortable with putting on there. But they don't call for balancing, but it's a nice piece. So that's kind of where I'm at this week, folks. Took me a little while to get this all figured out and working. And then working at the switch for the stick, and I got that all figured out, so pretty much ready to go. Like I say, get the screws in the bottom of this tank, seal it up. It's already got a cork gasket made. I'll probably still put a little sealant on it, on the screws, because they do go up into the fuel tank. Get those on, safety wired. Get some gas put in it, see if there's any leaks. I'll probably have to put a hose around the fittings to keep them plugged before I put it in. I don't want to put the tank in and have it leak after it's set in there. And then again, the last thing to do is get a brace on this. And it turns out my little pins that I'm using for all these little plugs works perfectly on these pins here. So if temporarily, I was looking for a plug for this, but I can't seem to find them. They all come in a 3-pin, not a 5-pin like this one. But these are on nice and tight. I'm just going to make it, one's got to go to ground, one goes to positive, and that'll get that thing running as soon as I turn on basically the avionics masters, the avionics switch from, and that'll get that running. So those two things fixed up, fuel tank's ready to go in, and get some antifreeze, fill the cooling system up. Still got to finish the exhaust, of course, little cowl work. And we should be able to fire this bad boy up. Get a battery. Just got to shorten this one battery cable again. I'm going to cut about a foot off of this thing, recrimp it, and these were soldered on. I'll cut them off unsoldered, cut it back, and redo it. Shouldn't be a problem. It's about $110 for the battery I need to put in this. So, so that's going to be it for this week's update, folks. May not seem like a lot, but it is time consuming doing these. So, and it's going to be a lot more time consuming to sand them out, get them prepped for paint. So, alright, as always, folks, appreciate everyone taking the time to watch the videos, and feel free to leave any comments, questions, or concerns, and I'll get this thing loaded up tonight and see how it goes. Last night my friend asked me to go out and help him with his launching his powered parachute. It's his first time from home, and he just got his training this week for it, so he wanted a little help, so I went out and helped him, and I made a video for him. So it was a little shaky because we were 2/3 way down the runway, and I'm trying to walk back as steady as I can to get back down to the other end of the field. So, all right, everybody, that's going to do it for this week. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next weekend. This is Dino Don out.